Boop, 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 boop. Boo. I don't really have an intro yet for us still, but
Welcome.
Here
What was the old intro? I always liked when we just faded in.
we just talk. But I was waiting for us to kind of just make sure we were set up because I was still gonna just talk, but because we were, because of the catch up, like, hey, another virtual episode. Everybody who listened to it and liked the old style audio, thank you for giving me feedback. Only like 3 of you did, and the feedback was good. It's the same. I have the same kind of feedback where it's I like it. It's like almost there. There's just something missing. So I think I will play around with this episode to see if I can get it to sound like, because the other one was like too muddied. It was too muffled. But when you listen to AM radio on the radio, I'm like, I just want that sound. I just need to figure out how to get there, and we'll be fine. Because we were really close, and then I can just kind of mess around with it a little bit more and listen to it. And, I think that's a good way to kind of separate the, the virtual episodes to that. So I think that's fun. No one said they weren't going to listen, but we're not really checking the Libsyn stats every day.
No, not anymore.
No. We didn't get to do one in person. It just kind of didn't work out. I was sick, and then just been fairly busy. So
I don't mind the virtual.
I don't mind it either.
I thought I would. I think we're in a good spot now.
I think it's a lot better. I don't know if I like my lights being off. I know you liked having yours off.
Ooh, I like yours. I think you need a strobe light or something, like a true celestial experience.
No, I can change my settings on maybe this one because it's on something else.
Ooh, now that was it. Ooh,
that green one?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, the green. There we go. Man, maybe I got something. I do, but no, I don't have my setup yet. So
this looks really weird.
You got a nice pad. Yeah, it looks a little weird. I feel like I'm in a 1990s Thrasher video or something.
Yeah, we're talking about aliens. We're talking about the women and the women getting taken by the aliens.
That's a real thing. So they say.
Yeah, because they're
That's what the people say.
They want to use our women to start the half breeds. There was actually
Who's to say they didn't already?
Well, this is what I was going to say that. So there was a picture on the UFO subreddit or the aliens one, and it was a picture of Dr. Stephen Greer next to what a reptilian looks like. Uncanny. I'll find it real quick.
We'll pull it up. I was seeing him. Did he do a major podcast? Was he on Rogan?
He did one. He did. Well, he was on Rogan a while ago, but this is Stephen Greer.
I saw one where he, for every 1,000 likes, they were going to make him more and more. Where he looked like they made him with cornrows, and then they gave him like a beater.
Oh, okay.
They put him some tats and chains.
Oh. Yeah. No.
So I thought maybe he looked like that now.
No.
It's about time.
Okay, let's go to
Let's embrace it.
Let's go to aliens. They don't post much. It's probably actually.
I also saw that he got into it with Alex Jones. Well, that was the title. They said Stephen Greer has heated debate with Alex Jones. It wasn't very heated.
Yeah.
Stephen Greer got a little heated.
Yeah.
But Alex, he was old Ozempic Alex. He's lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, everyone's on Ozempic, dude. They're all going blind.
I don't know. They say he's got a Navy SEAL friend, and he's on the routine.
Really? This is like when it's when he was selling his workout
pills. I got
pills.
Feelers out. I don't listen anymore, but I got feelers out. I still got a pulse on what's going on in the world, Brandon.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm glad you know what's going on. Let's do top ones. I'm trying to find it. I'll just I guess I can just Steven.
Better cut this part.
This part?
Let's fix it in post.
It's not happening.
Let's pull it in post.
Oh no, I can't find it. It's too hard.
What's happened in this podcast?
I just don't. I hate the way Reddit is like. It's like, hey, you searching for something? You want to search for something from like all time? I'm like, no, you dingus. I want to search the most recent. You have Relevant right there. Fucking. Sorry, and I do gotta cut that out. I said the F word, but it's like
I don't understand. Evidently, Reddit is. I mean, what happened with Reddit?
It's bad.
It used to be the place to be. I don't know if it still is.
I mean, it's hard to say because it's just really it's too hard to find. That's something I have to find. I'll have to do actual digging. You just
can't find the latest Stephen Greer episode?
No, I'm just the picture of the reptilian versus his face, where they're like they look exactly the same, and everyone's like, now it makes all the sense in the world. He's an alien. That's why he's like pushing for it so much. Yeah, I don't know about the Stephen Greer episode. I don't really care about, we talked about it a little bit the other day, or a couple podcasts ago. But those guys are all grifters now, and they all have their own book, and they're all trying to make money off something. So, they're always trying to sell you something that's going on, and it's not real aliens. It's not happening anytime soon. Maybe though.
What is this?
Maybe
Go live.
Go live.
Oh, I can't share my screen.
What do you mean?
That thing. I found it. It does look just like.
Oh, the yeah.
It's funny. Well, I'm not saying that these guys are reptilians, but if they were, but you would think that they would have they would go out of their way to not look like one.
Yeah.
Like big wig. I would think more like they're looking like a guy from ZZ Top.
Yeah, you would want it to look like Zuckerberg now, not when he was not when he was looking really weird.
What do you think about that? They said he wasn't sweating. No sweat.
The no sweat thing is strange, and that does remind me of aliens, because or whatever the reptilian stuff. So,
do you remember that thing that they were talking about back in the day with like Justin Bieber? It was in a news article.
What was it?
And they said that there was multiple people who saw him transform in an airport to a reptilian.
I do remember this. It was like in Brazil or something. It was like when he was in South America for a show.
Yeah. If that's where you're going to do it. I feel like all these guys, all the alien sightings are in South America.
Oh, yeah.
All the weird stuff's in South America. It's just wild down there.
Do you think it's because it's like an uneducated thing? They just don't know what's going on?
No. Sometimes people, I think, the people that we say are uneducated are far more in tune with realities of the human experience than us who are educated.
So you're saying they're really better, they're much better at seeing reptilians than we are.
Maybe they're better at seeing the world for how it is.
Maybe they probably are like, dude, when he turned into a reptile, I was like, I kind of want to grill him up and eat it.
That's horrible.
People
eat that?
Yes, dude.
It's like on Indiana Jones. You remember they cut open that snake?
Yeah.
On the second one? Oh, man.
Well, it's
surely that's not real.
Like Destination Truth. They eat the spiders and they fry them up and they crunch them.
You'd think like there'd be a better way. They're talking about all these things. Like one of the things I saw was like the worst 10 foods. One of them was like cheese, and it's like a delicacy in France or something. It's got mold in it and worms growing out of the side of it. And people are eating this thing, and it goes into your body, and it's supposed to be good for you. But where do you have to be in life to try something like that? I mean, how bad was it for them in history that they were like, you know what? This is looking pretty good. Give it a shot.
There's literally, we can't eat anything. It's all stale, moldy bread. What's this moldy cheese going to do? Well, we were just watching a tasting history video when I was playing some Monster Hunter, and it was talking about at one point pineapples were so important and so rare in Europe that it was equivalent to like $10,000 now to have one. And people would rent pineapples to have at their house to show off they're wealthy enough to own a pineapple. It was
now why would that be?
It was
where do they come from?
I can't remember exactly what it was, but they come from a specific place, and the imports were crazy. It was hard to get them, so when you got them, it was a hot commodity, so it was mostly wealthy people getting it. Until a point where I think the King of Britain got a good trade deal with some pineapples. So so they basically got an influx to where they didn't have to worry about them being super expensive anymore. It was interesting that pineapples were such a hot commodity. I think it was maybe the original place was from Mexico, and that's why it was such a tough import. A whole different region down there. I don't know. It was interesting. It's just kind of funny that back in the day, when we think about modern day, and we just go into the grocery store, and how easy life is now, and picking up food and making meals and doing whatever, compared to even just 300 years ago. You're like, ah, well, ship sunk. This is all we got for the next couple months. There is no more food coming, and then it's just.
Guess we'll just get scurvy.
Yeah, well, or that. Well, I mean, you'd still could hunt, but in terms of just like.
Yeah, but scurvy's like no vitamin C. Like, what do people do without it being able to eat fruit and vegetables for, I mean, they canned it.
I would assume they would just like eat whatever wild berries they could find. But I don't know what would be high in vitamin C. I mean, there's a little bit in meat, but very, very little. But I mean, I don't know. Some of the carnivore guys I follow haven't gotten scurvy yet, so that's all they eat is meat. So maybe you could just get away with just not, not eating any orange, no orange juice. Well,
I don't know, because they said those boat captains and stuff had to eat shoe leather half the time once they got to wherever they were going.
Yeah.
They had to start eating their shoes.
Pirates of the Caribbean doesn't really do a good job of showing you how unfun being on the seas very long is.
Can you imagine? Well, they said that like they used to just follow the coastline, right?
Yeah, it wasn't
like once you got out to the open sea, what do? I mean, you're just.
I mean, there was a video I saw the other day about like in like a mainliner giant cargo ship dealing with like a wave, and it was like beating that thing up. And you can imagine just smaller wooden ships back then being decimated by those big waves. It's like, what? There's no way people were planning for that.
I'm not buying it, dude. They're saying there's a lot. Because they say, we have the pyramids getting built. All these, intricate like stones. You're telling me they didn't build better ships than like a log boat? No. I'm saying them big waves are taking many ships to the down under. I'm just saying they just sunk ships more often than we had sunk ships. That's all I'm saying. But no, nobody ever talks about like surely there was seafaring.
Oh yeah.
In those ancient civilizations, like nobody talks about that. But I guarantee people had to know what was maybe not America, but no. I mean, people were definitely traveling and sailing around. There's no way.
I feel like back then, because you look at like the boats on there's like that boat track where you can see all the boats going on right now, all the cargo ships and everything. I bet you back then they just followed like after a while, you kind of just figured out this is the smoothest way to get from point A to point B, and that's kind of always how you sailed. And then you would only really get to those dark and deep waters that had like that really bad stuff happening. If something, something happened, a storm kind of blew you the wrong way, you're kind of getting back on track. But I just find it interesting that even those waves nowadays are pretty much able to take out some of our big ships. They probably just don't get covered all that much. When it happens, because it's not news cares about. But just back then, like, back in Viking days, if they went into like the open ocean, I would say maybe if they had a fleet, not everyone's making it. But I think with the Vikings specifically, that was definitely more of a shoreline type of thing. That wasn't traversing the big open blue. But it is something I would love to do. I'd love to learn how to pilot a boat and get my seafaring legs, but I think that's more a rich person gig now.
No, surely not. I mean, you go up there and become a crab fisherman. I know you're looking. You can go up there.
Yeah,
they make great money. I've watched that show.
Yeah,
but I'm really really interested in like one of my everybody's got their thing. Like some people like fire, some people like I don't know other things.
You named one thing, fire. Other activities they like.
No, like some people like setting stuff on fire. But I've always been like interested in the crazy waves and stuff of the ocean. Have you seen some of these videos that come out? It's unbelievable. I was watching one there. You picture one of those huge cargo ships, and it's got I'm talking train cars on it. So they're probably 5 high, 5 wide on this cargo ship, and it's a huge. And waves, on the big barge
Yeah.
out in the middle of the ocean, it doesn't look that big when you're viewing it. But I mean, we're talking over 30-foot waves, like
Yes.
huge. And on the ocean, you can see like a couple videos I saw. It looked like the thing was literally getting ready to capsize.
Yeah.
Like, can you and just to think about how big how big the waves had to be, and how big the boat is that's getting ready to completely flip over with all that weight on it, and guys are driving that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah.
down in like South America and around like the Horn of Africa and stuff. Like some of that stuff, I just think it's so crazy that in our modern world there are places like I don't know what it's called, but like the tip there of South America,
Oh,
people live
yes.
down there.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even hear about those people. What are those people doing all day? You know what I mean? Like, whether it's hanging out, like,
Fishing.
what is their life like? Fishing?
Spearfishing. Well, I do. Like, I agree with you. Like, some people like, they like the fire. Some people like to go into the caves and do the caving. Like, they're like that's their home, is being inside the earth in a very uncomfortable way.
Wait, what? Who are these people?
Cavers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
People who put their lives on the line to squeeze through.
Well, I thought you were saying you were like living in there. I was like, what do we got, like cave dwellers?
Well, I mean, for their TikToks, probably. I mean, they're in there
Yeah,
for
probably.
a while, but there's always there's like a dad and son I always watch that do it, and I'm always like, mm-mm. I mean, I know I have to do it to get to Ogartha, but like, I don't really want to do this. This doesn't look fun at all.
They're squeezing through.
But I love the ocean. There was a time. I still kick around the idea. I want to get my scuba license. It just hasn't happened because of the kids and it had
Yeah, you used to talk about that.
And I was training my lungs so I could do those ascended or those descents where you are like a breath and you try to do those jumps and go as far as you can, just with one breath of air. And it's like a 5-minute dive or something like that. They're really cool. It's really hard to train your breath and stuff, especially out of water, but there's ways to do it. But I love being in the ocean. Like when we went snorkeling when we were in Cancun, like I just was down there with the fishes, just kind of as close as I could to the reef and kind of just probably being annoying to them, just kind of getting in there. And to the point where it makes the water ape theory to me every time it pops up. Like, I don't know if it's believable, but there is some, there's some evidence to it that there could maybe, that some lines could cross. It seems like it's plausible, but man, when I'm in the water, man, I just feel so much better. And like, I feel a lot, like I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. I just can't breathe here. So where's the disconnect? Whereas like Morgan, opposite. When we were snorkeling, she's got her vest. I didn't have my vest. I had my goggles on. I was down there. She's vest on, goggles on, fighting for her life up there.
Really?
On the top of the ocean. Like, having a panic attack. And then I come up and touch her. She's like, I thought it was a fish. And I'm like, well, we're in the ocean, so it could have been a fish. And she's like, get me out of this. Get me out of this. And
yeah, I don't think I'd freak.
Yeah, she's because I was about to Steve Irwin myself. There was a stingray down there. I was about to go touch, but I knew another group of people who were coming off the snorkel were coming up, and I'm like, you know what? It'll startle him or it, and I'll get stabbed, and I don't want to die. So I went back to my boat.
How big was it? How big was the one that killed him? That seems like it had to be very big.
His was a big one. Mine wasn't. It wasn't huge, but it was cool. It was a pretty big little guy for a stingray. I mean, I haven't seen many in the wild, so it's hard to gauge on what is the average size. I mostly kind of compare it to what I see at the zoo, not the zoo, the aquarium. But it was cool to see in person, just because that reef there in Cancun definitely wasn't as pretty as reefs that have less people populated.
I was going to say they probably take everybody there to the same spot.
Yeah. But I mean, it was cool seeing all the fish move around and do stuff and get like real close to. And the water was super clear. It was super great.
What do you think? There's probability that there's mermen, probability wise. Dude, if you're a betting man.
Betting?
Yeah.
I used to do that all the time.
Did you?
I bet all the time during football season.
What?
I put in $10 and I try to make it last. Yeah, it was FanDuel. I made it up to like $120, and then like there was like 3 weeks left of the season. None of my bets hit. I lost all my money. I was like, oh well, because my goal is to like you put 10 in, you want to keep it to the end of the season, and it's enough to cash out. You cash out. If not, you just keep it in there until next. But I ran out. I mean, I want to believe again, super super hard, but I would say it had to be like a point, like 0.05%. I feel like
0.05. Okay.
I just
All
feel
right.
like there the reason it's 0.05 and not 0.01 is there's a lot we haven't seen. It's hard to document the ocean. And again, with the water ape theory and kind of the way it works, and the other credit to it is like dolphins. Dolphins work with man all the time to get like extra food, or
That's right.
they help like fishermen get stuff. They do their little deal, and part of what I think the water ape theory was with the dolphins is like there's a reason why dolphins like humanoid creatures. It's because they already work with them. The merman, and I'm like, okay, all right. I mean, I'll bite. I think it's fun. I do love the old when it came out. It was like when I was in high school. That Discovery documentary of like the merman and all that stuff that they faked. Oh, I love that.
That was a hardcore fake. That was a mean fake.
And I loved it.
That was a mean fake.
Because I believed it.
They got me with that one. They got me too. Everybody did.
I believed it. I was in Florida and I was looking out. I was like, maybe I'll see one. I'll see one on the beach today.
Yeah, that was back in the days where you just thought, man, it's the History Channel. They wouldn't lie.
Yeah.
And they lied. They lied big. They did a dragon one too.
So, and I knew it was like up for debate whether it was like real or not, because of all the videos of like the footage looked really bad and fake. And I'm like, okay, let's say it was a real footage that didn't look good, so they doctored it to look better. They just want it for the show. But then they have like the P.T. Barnum stuff and all this stuff. They were trying to they were making all these lines work. And I was like, man. I want to so bad believe this.
Yeah.
And they had the guy on there for a follow-up interview and all this stuff. And yeah, you look at it, none of these people are, credible at all.
The funny thing with that though is like everybody, say History Channel, right?
Yeah.
Like they came, I think, or was that Discovery?
It was Discovery.
That was one of those. Discovery, okay. Well, then, so they come out with that, and everybody's like, oh, you won't get me again. And then, like, 10 years later, they come out with all this Bigfoot stuff, and they come out with, like, and everybody's like, man, it's on the History Channel. These interviews, they're probably just faking everything.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean?
The funny thing about the mermaid thing is, like, a couple years later, they did the thing with Megalodon, where they had, like, it was during Shark Week, where all the footage made it look like there was a new Meg. Like, a live Meg was on the ocean torturing and killing people. And I was like, what's going on? And I wanted the Meg to be there. It's the same thing with Nessie.
Everybody wants the Meg there.
I want
Nessie, man. There's something to Nessie. That's all I got to say.
Dude,
it looks too much like one of those ancient dinosaurs.
I know. But I saw there was a video that showed kind of what he thought it was because of the way not Loch Ness and it works with the ocean coming in. He's like, I think it's a whale's penis, and I showed a picture of a whale's penis, and I was like, man, if you took a picture of that back then, I'm like, it looks really close to like
that main shot or whatever. That's fake.
Yeah, I know.
They showed how he did that.
But I'm saying like the whale penis looks like the main shot. I'm like, oh man, that's not good for my Nessie dreams, dude.
Well, I can't remember the name of it. Hey, I don't know if you wanted to know this, but there is a 0.0001% chance of the biological mermaids. There's no scientific reason to believe in traditional mermaids. There's a 1 to 5% chance of an undiscovered deep sea humanoid species because the deep ocean remains largely unexplored.
So, dude, my 0.01 was right, but I said 0.05 because I think that was 0.001, so it's even far fetched.
Well, you were close. Close.
Well, I think a lot of the stuff they'd always bring up too is those people that live on the sea. They spend the time on the ocean. They hold their breath long. They can see in the ocean. Like they're there all the time. They get the web feet. Like it makes sense that somewhere over there in the ocean, there's one of us with fins. And they're ugly.
The best Joe Rogan, honestly, the single best one that I've ever heard and the most intriguing, probably because I do want to believe, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I know it's all fake, but I do want to believe. But that dude that was talking about how he saw the mermaid in Seychelles Island down there in Africa. Man, that dude's credible. No, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I don't know if he's credible or not. The story.
Credible.
It was a great story.
Yeah.
But I've met those liars. I've met liars.
Yes.
A lot of liars. And I'm one of these people. I'm a rube, I guess. Like, I naturally am inclined to believe people because I'm not lying. You know what I mean? And it's like I just assume people are telling the truth. Heck, there's a lot of liars out there, Brandon.
Oh, there are.
And they're very good at it. And saying that, I think about a lot. I was telling my wife this a little while ago. I don't know what we were talking about, but it's the idea that most people don't understand how evil people can really be. Like, they're underestimating, even if it's only 1% of the population or 2. Your mind just can't even go there.
Yeah.
Like, the level that those evil people are at, a normal person, hopefully, I'll say, hopefully me or you, wouldn't be able to even comprehend or understand what makes their brain work and what even they're thinking, because they're just on a completely other wavelength. And I think it's the same thing with chronic liars, or people. And I don't know, like, and I guess we could look it up, but what do you think the draw? Like, why do people lie about? Number one, say, why are people lying about Bigfoot? 2, I'll ask you this: why are people lying about cryptids? And what do you think the psychology of someone who's always out there, like a fishing story or like exaggerating? Like, there's people that just like just exaggerating the truth.
Well,
what do you think?
Before I get into that, I'll say this is a tangent to the mermaid story. There is also one other credible thing for the water ape thing. There was a guy I used to watch. He was a podcast. He traveled in a van. He'd always find people and interview them and do whatever, van life type thing. He was older, but the podcast was good. And he got in with somebody who was a marine biologist, and he was talking about how, you can't, you get interested into the water ape theory when you're in, you're in that field and you do a lot of work and you see all this stuff. If you even, breathe about it, you lose pretty much all of your funding to any of the research that you're doing, all your grants. They do not want you even remotely investigating that theory at all. Which to me, because they don't want. Yeah, he just said it's a month. Hushes the word. If you bring it up, any points, just bringing it up means you lost whatever you're doing. Good luck. And then it pretty much kills your career if you even think that it's even possible. So you can't talk about it till it's over. And to me, that
everybody got burned on that documentary, and nobody wants to bring it up.
Well,
everybody's so mad about it.
Well, here's my thing though. If the water ape theory holds no credence, investigate it under all the other theories, and it'll fall apart under the scrutiny of science. So let them do it. Let them spend their money on it. Well, I mean, I can understand not giving them grants, but let someone research it, and then it's 100%. For the most part, not real. No way. But
there's a conspiracy. There's this, and maybe I'm making it up, but I have heard it in tidbits, maybe not presented this way. But all modern research is basically not true science because it's all bought and paid for with an agenda in mind.
Yeah.
These people that are manufacturing drugs and things like that. Of course, they want you to find.
Coke funded the sugar study saying sugar's better for you than fat. That's not science.
Well, we were
talking
about
bribery.
Well, right, but do you remember the old food pyramid?
Yeah,
it was talking about eating 7%. What was it? 70% of your diet should be grains.
Yeah,
or something like that. It's where does this stuff come from?
You get one, and it's still kind of there. It's you get a little bit of protein, a lot of pasta, bread, spaghetti. Make sure you're always drinking milk. Get some leafy greens in there. And it's bad.
Sitting around eating pasta and bread all day, I'd feel like garbage.
And not even the good pasta. We just had a friend she made homemade pasta in the last 2 times, and he felt pretty good after it. But that's not what's
homemade pasta.
Yeah, because she's gluten, so it has none of the stuff in there that makes your tummy hurt. So
they say when people go to other countries, they eat the same thing, and they lose weight, and they don't have. So there's something. There's something going on with.
Also, with Europe, though, you walk a lot there. So here we eat, and then we are in our car, whatever. Back home. Back then, over there, they eat, and then they go on walks. They eat early. It's a long eat, and then they also walk everywhere. But yes, their food is also better for them than ours. But what I would say was,
tell me about that.
To your question. With people who are chronic liars, what I think, because we have a couple of those in Morgan's family that are, or soon to be in her family. they know. But it's
who you are.
They just to me it's like a one-up thing. So for their psychology, they're like the only like daughter for like a siblings of like three like older boys or whatever, and it feels like it's a competition thing to like, oh, my story's interesting, make sure you give me attention, blah blah blah. But it's to a point where like anything that they tell us, like there was a story the other day, like she called the cops on somebody following them in the parking lot of like a Walmart or something, and she thought like they were gonna tag her car and like follow her home and murder her. And
Yeah, right.
they told me this story. They told the story. I was getting something. I'm like, oh, cool. I mean, that sucks. And then as everyone kind of questioned her later, like she would, like, so why did this person just not do this? And it's like, and she'd pause and think, because she couldn't remember the story. The story keeps changing every time they ask her a question. It's a different reason. So I think part of it is they just don't have the concept also of just like reality. I think it's gone for whatever reason, but they lie because they want you to be interested in their life or feel a way for them that they feel like they are like meaningful, like be like my life is mundane, this is a cool story, this is like a TikTok or like a story you could talk about with as a comedian, like this is a funny thing, like this is cool, or this is like a weird thing that happened to me. So like they're like an interesting or whatever, like in the news when they do just little set, not set pieces, but like the little like hometown story. They just like to be that center of attention thing. So I think that is the main psychology to it. I think there is fundamentally probably some people who are pathological liars because of probably some trauma as a child, but also just like if you are always lying about the reality that you're in, your life is kind of not in a good spot. At least it's like giving you this like fake semblance of like maybe it's not as bad as it is, and maybe if you lie long enough and hard enough on the outside, it'll start seeping in and make your life better, maybe. And that's kind of a more optimistic way of thinking about it. But
so you said something though that's really intriguing. You said they want people to see them as they are, or as they think they are.
mm-hmm.
Do you think that the people, like in that situation, do you think that that person truly believed all that stuff in their mind and was just sharing it? And then when you presented the facts, that they were like, oh, maybe I was wrong? Or do you think that they were exaggerating? Because you said that, right?
Yeah.
Like people just want attention. They want.
Yeah.
Do you think that they see themselves and they see like this idea that people see them, everybody's the hero in their own story?
Yeah.
So are they explaining it to you like they feel it, like, oh, I'm the hero, like it's this big chase, like all of this?
So,
or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it depends on the person. I think there are definitely people like that person, I think, just always has done it. So I think they perceive it that way.
Yeah.
But when when reality is questioned on why things didn't happen, and they start to remember that, oh, that didn't even happen, and they start but then they're like, oh, I already said this, we have to keep with it, type of thing. And when you do it so enough, it's like, it's just so innate, it's a part of it. Like, whereas like when Morgan embellishes a story,
Yeah.
she wants to be, she's like, I'm bringing this up because I want this to be funny, I want people to see this or hear about this, and I'm going to say it as well as I can. And then the only reason it doesn't is because I'm there and I'm like, well, that didn't happen, you're a liar. And that actually, this is your fault. You did this, you know. And she's like, like the other day at our party, she's gonna be upset I bring it up, but like it was like
we'll cut it in post.
No, I just won't bring it up. But it's something like we were just goofing and gaffing, and I was talking about something like because Morgan used to like be able to do stuff with her feet. And like when she was younger, and I was like saying, "Oh, she used to do this all the time with her feet." She's like, no one's supposed to know that." And like everybody in the room was like cackling and laughing. I'm like, "Well, I thought this was still a skill. We got to show this off."
Did she show it off?
Yeah, she's very mad. But it is really funny. It was a funny bit. She was just back in the school days. She could eat cereal with her feet, like you could like hold it with a spoon and eat it. And I'm like, she's like, no one needs to know that. And I'm like, well, that's a cool thing,
like a circus trick.
Yeah,
take that on the road.
Yeah,
take that one on the rood.
Yeah. It was a hoot and a holler. But I think so. That's like one thing. But that's based on like. That's all like based on the scenario you're in, like the group you're with. Like I have a funny bit that I thought would make sense here. I want to make sure that it lands So you're
Yeah.
gonna spice it up a little bit.
And I think everyone appreciates that, right?
Yeah.
But okay, but then where does that become like? What is the line between that and like, dude, you're just a compulsive weird liar? Like, why would you lie about that? You know?
I think it just comes down to people who I think it has to start probably in the home. I think back when they were kids, you lie about your home life because you want to escape it, and you want it to be, you just don't want it, what you're doing, or whatever it is affecting you there, you just lie about it so you can just kind of get rid of it. And then that is just something you have to do on a routine, and then it just builds this pathway of, I'm always going to lie, and then it just becomes into like, you lie about everything. It was, it's kind of like that willpower and trip to alcoholism goes down. Like, back in the day, you have a couple drinks, you're fine, and then you start getting to that point where like you just don't have a limit, and you keep going. And once you start touching it and going, and like you just drink it like it's water. And so in this case, lying is just like water. It's like you breathe and it's a lie, but you don't know it's a lie anymore because you've done it so long. And I think it comes down from a root cause of just, I mean, this is like a guess, but I think it's just like a troubled youth trauma and some way of avoiding that and trying to escape it and kind of make your life seem like it's better than it is. But what I struggle with that is when you come home finally and your reality sets back in, where I don't know where that line draws, like, and what those people feel because they know it's a lie. Does it break their reality? Does it make it worse? And then they just overlie it later on? No. That's like a general person. The cryptid stuff and the Bigfoot thing, I think nowadays for sure, and especially early 2010s with Monster Quest and stuff, I think a lot of people lied about that because they could see that, hey, there's an audience. I can do this as a career. I'm going to be the Bigfoot guy. Like before TikTok and YouTube and all this stuff was like super prevalent and you can make a career doing things and talking about stuff or podcasting. You could do, like, this is like, I'm going to be this guy. I'm going to fudge some evidence. I'm going to fudge some encounters. Get this hair samples, and then you're just going to build this portfolio of, evidence that you somehow found, like you in the woods, and then build it up just because you want to feel. I think less of it is that they want to feel important. Some people probably are like, I want to be a part of a scientific discovery. I want to feel like I've mattered and I've changed the world. I am going to find Bigfoot. I think most of them are like, this could be my thing. I can make some money off of this. This will be.
Yeah, but that explains like the researchers. But what about the people they interview? Do you think those are even real? And I remember Bobo, man. Bobo would be like, here, and they'd be like, taller. He'd be like, here.
It's hard. Anything on television is not real.
Twice,
so I would say
twice that.
I would say none of those people are. I would say none of those people are real. I think if you were gonna like get interviews from people who probably were real about it, it would have. It happens on like maybe like 10 years ago on a podcast. Yeah. Like Astonishing Legends had some interviews with some people that seemed it's when I say seemed real, I mean that seems genuine. Like what they saw, what they experienced, felt genuine. There wasn't this like, as they're talking, it's not like an Art Bell episode where you're like listening, like, I want to believe this guy time traveled, but something tells me Mad Mike did not indeed time travel. Whereas, like, when they have these people on there, at least back then, because now it like is like, we've kind of went overfold because the way the algorithm works, the way you catch people, and the way you can make money is so easy now as like as a niche. And if you have your little pocket of the internet, it becomes like we're back into like that on TV thing. Everything that is online is like on TV. It's all fake because people are like hyper focused and hyper streamlined, and they're going to sell you what they need to sell you. But in that like early era, I feel like people were just genuine and unique about their experiences and talking about it, and it wasn't. Especially when it wasn't like something like, oh, and Bigfoot was chasing me, and I was with my dog, and it ate my dog, and it was just like a normal encounter, something weird, super hard to explain.
The big thing now is the alien stories. But here's my question: is I think when we first did this podcast years ago, it was conspiracies were still somewhat fringe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were gaining in popularity. And I've got to say, I've gone the other way as far as, do I believe some? Yeah. But like used to be, man, I was just like anything that came down, I was ready.
Yeah.
I was like the whole thing. And now it's just like there's so many out there. I think that it has been hijacked
Oh, yeah.
where it's not used to be. The ones that I liked was the real researchers.
Yeah.
And they were going through and they'd have good evidence and it would be some, just some Reddit place somewhere of just some nerdy, autistic probably guy that just got it on his mind. And people like this, right?
Yeah.
It's like the people that solve all these unsolved mysteries from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
People get bored.
Yeah.
And so, and they would go and it would be investigate. It was, not all of them, but a lot were investigative journalists and they were there and talking about this stuff. But now I think it's been hijacked to
Yeah.
some extent because of popularity and Joe Rogan and other podcasts like this are making it more and more, taking it out of the fringes
Yeah.
and making it more mainstream. They had that guy, Ian Carroll, don't know who he is, heard about him though, was talking about a lot of these things that we used to know about, like Pizzagate, like all this stuff. They just talked about it on, and I mean, now millions of people are hearing about this. And so I think there's an opportunity if you were for the government or, I don't know what the reasoning might be, but it just feels like when we used to look into this stuff, it has changed
Mm-hmm.
to where now it's like almost pushing an agenda.
Yes.
And I don't know, I don't really care to look into all of it,
Yeah.
but I don't know why it's changed or what the agenda might be, but it does feel different.
I don't know.
Just like the mystery shows.
Yeah, I don't know when. I know when it changed. It changed during COVID and Trump's reign with the fake news, the Q, pushing all this stuff. Because he would just tweet something, latch onto it, and whatever Q was, which was like a stooge of whatever the government.
I was going to say, can you explain that? Because I have no idea.
So
I missed that one.
Q is this like conspiracy group that was a part, which I think was probably run by the CIA or FBI, some part of the government. But they would be like Trump will be like they would make all these conspiracies about like Trump will be here this time or RFK is not dead, he's gonna show up at the airport, and he would like they got asserted to like the MAGA group, and they would just say crazy things like and like Q like he's gonna indict everybody on the S team's list and like the first time around and all this stuff like we have word that all this stuff is gonna happen, and then that just kind of flooded the news, and they would always talk about Q and that, and then Trump said the fake news stuff, which was like real, like news is fake, it's like it's bought and paid for, it's like they're what it's like it's not a plush piece or a hush piece or something. No, like it's like they're
piece.
Well, no, it's like when it's like native ads for real. Like they do an ad and it's like during like we talk about I've talked about it a lot. Like Christmas when Walmart pays off somebody's layaway. That's like a native ad for Walmart because Walmart paid to have you talk about them. So like that part of the fake news, and then with the Q coming out and they'll cover Q stories and people will get like all queued up, and Q would be different than what Trump would say, and and then COVID happened, and then all this weird stuff with COVID, which we've covered in the past. We're not going to talk about it now, but it's things would happen. And it just wouldn't align with what's happening on the news or the headlines or what you're seeing. And they would just kind of brush it up or cover it up or something. And I think what that was to do was to kind of just destroy any credit for conspiracies. Because before it would be like something would be a conspiracy and weird, and they'd have their normal weird ones, and then there'd be every now and then one that would be like, hey, this is real, this is not but no longer are we allowed to cover the real ones because everything is now muddied. And I think the point was just to part of it I think is just to the distrust in the government, and it just kind of makes the population on edge, and that kind of carries over into the I would say the fear, and then the war on class that they're doing, where they want us to be angry at each other instead of the class war. But then they kind of separate it to be, oh, this is because the people who follow Q and MAGA, they're the problem, and they're just like pushing that. And because of Q being such a crazy thing in that time period, I think it kind of like seeds people's brains, because people have a terrible memory. Morgan, we were down here talking about something, and she's like, "Did you know that we just did that?" I'm like, "Yeah, we just talked about it like 3 months ago. How did you forget that happened?" I'm like, the public just because there's so much stuff happening. If something happens, and even if it's crazy, goes out of their like blame. Oh, it was the plane that flipped over. That was like that like landed. Everyone was safe, but it was they flipped over when it was driving when it was landing. And she's like, "Oh, I don't even remember that happening." I'm like, "What do you mean you don't remember that happening?" It's like it happened like 2 months ago. So I think
The endless news cycle.
endless news cycle. So I think that plays a part of it. And yes, people like Joe Rogan and all that, they popularize conspiracy theories, and I think it allows people to talk about things at a level because it's unresearched and it's very vague. Anybody with a mic can like be like, "Oh, I did some research on this," and they probably looked up 2 things, and it's like an opinion piece that they're talking about. But they're
Wait here. I mean,
no,
they
no,
can
no.
listen to some podcasts.
No. I'm saying people who are like,
I'm just kidding.
I found that this thing is crazy, and I did some
Right.
research for you. They found maybe like 2 links, and then they looked at those 2, and it's like, well, that's crazy. What are they? And then,
We wouldn't know anybody like that.
yeah. Well, it's really the flat earthers, those people like that. They go like, "Oh, we did all this science and stuff. We're figuring it. We know," and they try to convince you. And I've watched some of those videos, and they
Right.
do a really good job of editing it in a way that would fit on old Discovery, old History Channel, like early Ancient Aliens, where it like, oh, this does kind of make sense. Well,
Yeah.
it's because you're only using evidence that makes sense. That's
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Not all this other stuff. Right.
Yeah. Ignore this.
Well,
only
the
look
thing-
at that.
Well, the crazy thing is, it's like now with like X and all this stuff about how you are the media now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, even social media is been taken over by all this fake stuff. To your point, there's ads on there. There's bad actors on there just putting stuff out so people will go to their page. Everybody wants to be the person that's in the know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in a way, by trying to make social media the new news media,
Yeah.
they've effectively done away with, to your point, any kind of true free speech on there. I mean, yes, I'm of the school. I mean, it's increasing. I'm not a full dead internet theory person, but I think 75 to 80% of these accounts on there are fake.
It's all bots.
Yeah,
and none of it's
I
real.
really believe that. Yeah, I
well,
believe
it's
that.
because early days of the internet, you could do that with old ad companies. You would like, they would sell you like, "Oh, we can get you this product. We'll get so much stuff," and they fake the clicks and the links and the numbers to get the big buy. And like, yeah, at some point, somebody that's real will look at it.
And they're just swaying public opinion too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, my candidate's doing this. Everybody, oh, this person stinks. This person's great.
Which is,
and it's like they're just swaying you based on. I mean, that is a sales tactic in itself.
Yeah. Well, it goes to look at like, so, because you're always bombarded by this, perception of just reality is changing. And then the fact that what we see and deal with every day, the lies are blurred. So we talk about string theory and all these different dimensions, but really, social media is a true hidden dimension that is separate from real world that we are perceiving every day. That if you interact with it, if you don't interact with it, you don't interact with it. But then it's still hidden to you. But when you talk about like all these different dimensions and these higher level beings and all that stuff, it's a little bit more high fantasy and weird. But if you look at just terminally online people and the way they perceive news, information, stuff, like even with just Reddit specifically, you go into like video game subreddits, like Monster Hunter Wilds came out, and then it's all negative because everyone who's only there hates it. They like it, but they hate it, and it's all negative. But you walk away from that, it's way more positive. People talk about it. Oh, I enjoyed it. It's a fun game. I like it. I've played a lot. Whatever. It's a different world that you're living in, and when you interact with it, it's almost like you're interacting with like a different being, a different human that perceives different things because the only way they intake data or information is through that veil and that lens of this is how we see it. This comes across. I'm only going to perceive it as this terrible news. It's negative. It's bad, or whatever. And then that's how they digest it and take it out.
It's a great point. And I think in this generation, more than ever, we're getting media and getting like my dad, who only is going to read the newspaper and watch the news.
Yeah.
He's only getting socialized a certain way based on that. Whereas you and me, and even the kids younger than us, people younger than us, uh, they're going to be completely. All of the print and all of that stuff is so
Gone.
far gone. So it really is like that's. That's a great point. And I was researching for this because I know we were going to talk about this to some extent. But do you know that we only see 0.35? It was something like 0.0035% of all light.
Yeah, what is this called? The electromagnetic spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't
Well,
understand
it goes
Yeah.
to like like with the Wi-Fi, radio waves. It's like all these things is interacting with us, but we visually can't see it. And we go back to the pyramids and the
Right.
way that it was supposed to be this giant battery that powered Egypt as like this big cell, and it would like put like kind of like Tesla, and it would shoot it out. You don't see it, but all these things work, and I think we get to a point.
But they're going on, and they're going on around you right now.
Yeah.
Like we could have other dimensions. I've never understood it this way before. You could have other dimensions in this plane
Yeah.
of existence. It wouldn't even have to technically be in another dimension.
Yeah.
We just can't see it. It's in this realm.
Well,
it's not like,
and that's why, like, other animals and dogs see, like, they see different things differently than ours, and they hear and they can feel, like when a storm's coming or something like that. Like the closest to that is the whole thing when you get struck by lightning, you kind of feel there's a thunderstorm coming. It's that type of interaction. And that's why I brought up the whole thing that like Twitter and all this stuff, or X, is a different dimension, because you don't see it unless you look for it. And it's like we don't have the tools to really kind of perceive the radio waves in the same way. There's some graphs and stuff and some pictures that people have made before where like this is what it would look like. And you look at it and you just see all these lines and waves and everything going. And it just goes to show, when you think about ancient civilizations or ancient religions, and they had this tuning, or with their bodies and their souls, and everything they ingested and they partook was more important. It was a little bit different because they wanted their body to be in this certain rhythm to like flow with all the other energies that are flowing. And then you gotta go think like, man, maybe when they did this and they took their little ayahuasca supplement they did back then, when they saw something, it's less that it was like a weird fever dream, but maybe it really was just lifting the veil of what we are seeing all the time. We don't see all the time, but now we can visually see, because for whatever reason, it's allowing us to interact with it. So who knows? But it's strange that everything's going on around you, and it's giving you cancer.
Well, that's for sure true. But all these 5G towers, man, they got them pulled up everywhere. Hey, listen, so I think it's a great point, because science wants to make it, and we want everybody to feel secure and safe, like we know everything. Oh, we know all this about the astral bodies. We know all of this. We can send people to the moon. Like, we know everything about history. We know everything. And then I've never, like, researching this. Do you know that there's parts of our DNA? I didn't realize this. There are parts of our DNA that's called like the dark matter of our DNA, that they don't even know what it does. It's like 85%. And they're talking about mapping a full, like, I was reading and they were saying there could be things that our DNA could do where we have like special abilities, and it's like X-Men. And think about all the stuff. We only know we know more about, what did they say, the face of the moon than we know what's under our oceans.
Yeah.
And then we were going to talk about it, but like, I don't know, maybe you have it pulled up, that stone thing in Montana, and like how what's it called?
The Sage Wall?
Yeah, the Sage Wall. I just saw this, the first time I've ever heard of it. If you look at it, it looks like it's huge built structure, and there's a fight going on about it. Not a fight, but just discussion going on where they're fighting. It's in Montana. If it is man-made, it would be 13,000 years old, which would be supposedly the furthest back any built structure.
It would beat Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah. But there is that a lot of people think that the pyramid is older because of the weathering and all that.
Robert
Anyway,
Schoch, my boy.
uh, my point with that is, and even what you just said about the merman theory and all that, there is almost, if we want to talk about conspiracies, and this is where I am with the conspiracy stuff, I do think that there's some that exist because I believe humans are a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Humans don't want to get their studies defunded.
Yeah.
Humans don't want to go against the status quo.
Yeah.
And humans want to feel like they understand their world. When, if you look at the grander scheme of what we don't know to what we do know, what we don't know is vastly, what did I say? Is vastly more than what we do know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think having this semblance of, oh, we know that this and this, we can do this medicine, we can, we can stop the asteroid that's coming to Earth, like all of that gives us some level of peace and feeling of control over our environment, which ultimately gives us peace of like, okay, and that's why we structure our lives the way that we do. What do? You go to school, tiered 12th grade. Okay, after that, you do this. After that, you do, school. After that, get a job, have kids, like work, retire, have your stuff. All that makes us feel like it's secure and not just that you're floating around in some crazy, chaotic existence.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that my point is, I think a lot of this is helping the masses feel secure because if they didn't, you couldn't control them as easily. Well, and that's the kind of conspiracies that I believe.
Even just, and I'll end it with this because we're getting close to time, if not a little bit over. So there's two things. I guess this is the reason, like with the original Godzilla movies, which they made it about Japan. Because Japan's government, like, they didn't want the public to go crazy and have all these, if they were worried about something, especially after the war. So they would hide things that are bad because they don't want to scare the public. But by doing so, when inevitably when the thing goes wrong, it's worse because no one's prepared for it. No one's done there's no prep, there's no evacuation. It's just destruction. I think part of the reason why the conspiracies with the education system and kind of like things that go against the grain and what we have come to know as commonplace, like world history, is so easy for me to buy into, and like things get pushed away, like the water ape thing. And now again, I'm not saying that water apes are real. The water ape theory may not be real, but the fact that you can't talk about it or research it or even put any time to kind of see if it's even plausible worries me. But it's because we base our entire structure of education off of something that keeps proving to be wrong. The timeline of humanity, the way everything goes, and then they get into like, we're not going to do the critical race thing, but they go like, oh, the peoples happen here, they all spread out like that, but when you dig deep into it, it doesn't look like that, and they just don't like that because we've now based our entire educational like progress and the way you look at societies and everything based on that's what they thought, and it's just maybe not right. And so when you go against the grain like that, it disrupts the old flow, and no one wants to hear like, hey, well, we were wrong for the last 200 years.
That would also mean all your schooling's wrong. Yeah. Like everything you've been taught.
Everything's invalidated.
You wasted all your time.
Your bachelor's. And it's not that like your accounting degree is invalidated, but everything else that went with it. So who's to say your accounting degree isn't worthless? Like, I mean,
right.
So yeah, it kind of just basically the tower that's being held up by like the educational system and the way they've set it up is like, well, if we say that that's wrong, it just tumbles down, and it's not set up to be rebuilt. Whereas like if it was like pockets of it, they did a good job of like changing it. Like the one thing they did okay with was like dinosaurs for a while, like they're reptiles, now they're birds, now they're back to being kind of a mix of that. I'm like, okay, that's it. This is the only one, nothing else. They've stopped excavation of Göbekli Tepe for whatever.
Did they really?
Yes, they do not want. They stopped it. It cannot happen for like another 30 or 40 years.
They found that UFO there.
Yeah. So stuff like that, which is like ancient people, our lost history. I say that as if like it matters to us, the normal people, but it just disrupts that line of thinking. And I think the general public wouldn't care, but because it's so ingrained with the system, it would just make everything kind of fall apart for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's what I would say. Those are the ones I'm into.
I think you're onto something there, Brandon.
And
I think our audience is onto something by listening to the Celestial Mystery Hour podcast.
Yeah.
Where can they check us out, Brandon?
On any Podcast 2.0 platform, so it's like Podcast Addict or some other ones. We're on YouTube. We are on probably YouTube Music. We're on Spotify, Google Podcast still for a little bit while that's like being destroyed. Apple Podcast as well. So pretty much look up Celestial Mystery Hour. Don't click on Redux. That's not it anymore. We've rebranded. But I've taken down pretty much everything that was our old stuff, so you should be able to just find this and enjoy it.
That's great.
And if you didn't like it, you could just just give us some kind criticism. That'd be fine.
Nah, it's all right.
I won't read it, but I mean, you can send it to you. You can send it to me.
We're fragile.
But hopefully we're getting back into a good schedule. It's been tough. The weekends are tough to do. We have not been able to sit down one Saturday and record 7 episodes. It's been cold. It's getting warm out. It's time.
Yes.
I'm going to be jobless for a little bit. So
nice. That's where we got to get it cooking.
At least 1 month, I think.
That's great.
Right now. So that'll be after next week. So anyway, happy you guys are here. Hope you enjoyed it. Love ya.
Man, God bless.
We did it this time. Hold on. Where are we going?